appears that I am live and alive. And I have a topic for you today. With a little bit of a heavy heart. If you are a parent, you'll understand. Just making sure, get to the stop sign, make sure everything is kosher. It's all about kosher shekels. Send me your shekels. All right, don't send me your shekels. But if you have a shekel, I want it. An actual shekel. Like an antique. It'd be really cool. Come on. I could have gone. It's all good. It's all good. Not in a hurry. So, I had a good old long day at work. I went into work late. Well, not late, actually. I was there an hour and a half early, just later than I was planning. So tomorrow, I really am planning on getting there super early. I changed my plans for this evening. So I might actually still do a little stream when I get home. I might not. I don't know. You guys can encourage me if you want me to do a special interest stream tonight. Thursday I will be committing to Operation Baby Landlord. I cannot go a week without doing something for Operation Baby Landlord. That is my personal commitment. No less than once per week. So, we got no yellow bars. We're all good. So, discipline. If somebody wants to throw the verse in the chat, I love the discipline of the Lord. If you can find that verse, go ahead and throw that verse in the chat. I love the discipline of the Lord. Or any verse about I love the commandments of the Lord. But specifically, more importantly, and more on topic, I love the discipline of the Lord. I actually don't remember where it is. But I know for a fact it's pretty verbatim. Some translation says it exactly that way. So please find that. Please put that in the chat for everybody to ponder on. And to read the context. Read the whole section, the whole chapter. Or the whole book. It'll do you good. But hello. Let's go ahead and get on. Get on with it. Discipline. All right. So it just so happened that my oldest child was doing something that in her brain she knew to not be okay. So when you know, it's not, I didn't forget. Remember, I'm gonna give you these classes. If any of you are managers or want to be managers someday, I'm gonna give you this helpful technique for handling an employee. I'll get to that in a moment. But she knew. She knew that she shouldn't be doing what she did. It wasn't safe. It wasn't good. And she did it. And her excuse was thought it would be fun. Thought it would be fun. Because there is a level of immaturity and there's a point in time when you want to do what's right. And before that point, there's a lot of pain and hardship. So let me go on to the manager comment, and then I'm going to go on to the bigger picture metaphor and some teachable moments and lessons that I can share with you. Okay? Make sure that's pointed down. It'll cool it off maybe. All right. I'm blowing cool air on the area of the laptop. Maybe that'll help make it not labor so much. All right. Let me get to the point. If you're a manager and one of your employees, someone you're supervising, does something that they were not supposed to do, you say, hey, I wanted to know if we could, actually, no, you don't say, I wanted to know if I could speak to you for a moment. I mean, if you're going to be extremely passive, that's how you would say it. Hey, do you have a moment? The answer should always be yes. But, you know, you can do it in a little passive way like that. Hey, do you have a moment? Because if you're a good manager, you're going to pay attention to whether or not they actually have a moment, and you're going to expect the answer yes. But anyway, we'll move on. Hey, so this is what this had happened. Is that correct? Whatever the situation is. You name the situation. You say, is that correct? Yes. Okay. Well, I had a question for you about that. I wanted to know, oftentimes there's 3 ways that things like this happen. One of the reasons is you just didn't care about the rule. And I don't think that that's the reason for you. So let me give you the other reasons. The other reason is you didn't know. And then the last reason is you weren't able. So just to recap, there's 3 primary reasons why failure to follow the rules happens. This is also relevant in regards to any standard operating procedure, any lack of efficiency, that you have a prescribed way of doing something and somebody doesn't meet the expectations, and you know that they didn't meet the expectations because they didn't follow procedure. If you know that to be true, this is relevant to that, okay? So just to recap, you either didn't know, you didn't care, or you weren't able. Which reason was it for you? You either didn't know, you didn't care, or you weren't able. So, in regards to sin, I'm outside the role of, I took my manager hat off. We're going to go back to the talk. In the role of, like, when sin happens, you can apply those exact same 3 questions. You either didn't know. That's typically sins of omission, because ignorance is not an excuse from the law. You should know that by now. If you're old enough to be watching this video, that's something you should know. So there's that. Or you didn't, you weren't able. You weren't able. Which in regards to sin is extremely questionable. For you to make a claim that you were not able to not sin, literally not able, I'll give some examples so you better understand these categories, okay? I'll think up some kind of scenario and we'll play out each possible way that it could work. But then we'll move on to the what I would claim would be the absolute most prevalent. It's a lot of cardboard. Bales of cardboard. The absolute most prevalent reason for sin, I would say, is you didn't care. So, for instance, I didn't think it was important. That's another version of I didn't care. You get the point? There's a lot of different subcategories, but those are the three primary categories. It has massive relevance. So let's play each one of those out. We'll find a situation. I mean, I'm driving. I give this example happens all the time, but just for sake of ease, because I like to make things really easy and clear to understand by just about anybody. So let's go with this. The speed limit. You get pulled over. You understand why I pulled you over? No, sir. I don't know. Okay, well, you were traveling 75 miles an hour, and the speed limit's 60. Oh, sir, I didn't know. Well, the speed limit sign is literally 2,000 feet that way, and you were going that speed for quite a while. I followed you. Oh yeah. Well, I just so you could claim you didn't know, but then he's going to call the bluff, and then you go on to, well, I just wasn't paying attention, I guess, which is never a good thing to say to a police officer, but they don't have much compassion usually on you weren't paying attention, because that's a danger to society if you think about it. But anyway, I wasn't paying attention. Okay, so you don't care. Well, I didn't say I didn't care. If you cared, you would be paying attention. And then what's the last one? I wasn't able. Okay, so we're going to think up some ways that you would not be able to keep the speed limit. Let's say it was the lower limit, because this could happen. Let's say you get pulled over. Sir, I pulled you over. You were traveling 25 miles an hour, and the minimum speed of travel was actually 45. You have to travel at least 45 miles an hour on this highway. And sir, I understand that, and I had my emergency blinkers on, sir. I wasn't able to go the speed. I understand the requirement, but I literally wasn't able to follow the speed limit, the minimum speed limit, because my engine has a disconnected valve. I can't fix it by hand, and I am trying to ride in the slow lane with my emergency lights on to the nearest exit I can get to. I just wasn't able. Like, okay, well, here's what I'm going to do. I'll follow you just for safety, and I'll get you to where you need to go. How's that sound? Sounds great, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, so that's kind of a very, very convenient example. I get it, but you know, is that sin? Well, in that situation, it's the speed limit, and whether or not violating the law out of lack of ability is actually sin, that's between you and God. I imagine not, but it could be. Remember, earthly laws are not a perfect metaphor for godliness, but we are obligated to uphold the law of the land as long as they don't violate God's order. So, you know, that's a really unimportant one to try and extrapolate. But Anyway, we'll move on. All right. Let's do the cookie in the cookie jar. I told you not to steal the cookie. This didn't happen. My daughter. Most of you might be able to relate to it or something. So anyway, cookies in the cookie jar. The kid takes the cookie. He already had 2 cookies. Cookies are for tomorrow. No more cookies today. Kid takes another cookie. Right? Right? All right. I told you no more cookies, and I've caught you eating another cookie. Why? Well, I really wanted one. Oh, so you don't care about the law? Law. Yeah, I'm using it loosely, but you're getting the law of the land, law of the mom and dad, whatever. You get the point. All right. So here, there's a million of those examples. What's another one? I didn't hear you, Daddy. I didn't hear what you said. Well, you didn't hear me specifically look you in the face and say no more cookies. You didn't hear me say that, plain as day to you. I didn't know what I thought you were talking about right now, not later. It's later. Yeah, so you didn't know. Yeah. Maybe. But you get the point, right? That's a knowledge thing. Okay, well, now you know. There's a lot better vague examples that I could give you where a child, or it doesn't have to be a child, a person could just be like, the rules were unclear. I was under the impression that there was some wiggle room, so on and so on. So that's the knowledge excuse. And then ability. Well, Dad, the reason I got another cookie is because I ran out of my diabetic supplies and I knew I needed sugar immediately. And I figured one of the fastest ways, because we're all out of orange juice too, I was just thinking that one of the fastest ways for me to modulate my blood sugar, Dad, would be to just throw another cookie in my mouth. I didn't want to do it, but I really felt like I wasn't able to do anything else. So that's why I had another cookie. Obviously, that's the most convoluted, ridiculous example. I made that up on the top of my head. But anyway, the point is, there are these 3 categories. These 3 categories of how we can be disobedient to the law or the rules, whatever. So now comes in discipline. So we had one rule once upon a time. Once upon a time, there were 2 people, and they were given one rule to share. I mean, they both had to follow it, but they hypothetically could have helped each other share the rule, the one rule, but they didn't do it. I mean, let's say you're in outer space and you have 1 apple left, and to survive an extra day, you have to not eat that. I know it's an apple. It's not an apple in the Bible. I've tried to tell you all that before, but it's fine. Peri is the word. It's a fruit. It's an unidentified fruit. Probably on purpose, because God knows how much humans just love to idolize and just turn everything into an icon. And if he had said what fruit it was, then nobody would, or everybody would eat it, or nobody would eat it, and be all this nonsense wizardry constantly. So he left it vague and nondescript, because either it doesn't exist anymore, or he just didn't want us to harp on a specific fruit. Because anyway, let me get back to the point. You're distracting me, okay? Just chill out. I'm not going to sit here and be talked to in that kind of way. I don't have to be here. You tell me to chill out. I was watching your video. You should be thankful that I was watching your video. Tell me to chill out. I'm going somewhere else. I'm changing the channel. All right, let's talk about discipline. On that note, let's talk about discipline. So they violated the one rule. They had this one rule. They violated it. One rule. So, like, one. Just one. Just one. And they were literally situated. They weren't fallen. They weren't even fallen. They were perfectly situated to actually keep that law. They could have done it. They literally could have done it. Not that we can't keep laws now. With the help of Christ, we can. Do I believe in Christian perfectionism? No. And if any man says he has no sin, he is a liar. It's in the Bible. But we're still supposed to pursue the law. So there's a lot of balance in the Bible. Lots of balance. No contradictions. Just a lot of balance. All right, discipline. Yeah, you already said that like 3 times. You're starting to sound like Owen Benjamin when he talks about super chats. He brings it up like 15 times and then never reads a super chat. You're starting to sound a lot like that guy. Hey, chill out. Give the man a break. He's distractible, and he just wants to remind people that he will read them. Calm down. And as far as me being anything like him, maybe I am, maybe I'm not. I'm not trying to be. It just is what it is. Sometimes other good ideas come up. You want to say them because this isn't scripted, okay? So you want to say them before you lose them, and you have a keyword to remind yourself, like super chat or discipline or whatever it is. You have a keyword to help get your mind back on track. It's fine. It's fine. Everything is fine. Not everything, though. Lots of things aren't fine. But for people that are getting it, it's definitely fine. If you don't get it, things are not fine for you. But if you get it, then everything is fine for you in the grand scope of things. Discipline. Let's talk about it. So the consequence, by the sweat of his brow and pain in childbirth, and a handful of other details related to the curse. But I want to just point primarily at the role of the man, the role of the woman in that context. Do we have more roles than just that? Absolutely we do. But just in regards to the curse, we're just keeping it simple. This isn't some kind of in-depth talk. It's just I'm trying to pull out this idea for you to chew on. I like us to chew on ideas. So if you're not going to get it, if you're not going to follow the law, here's the consequence for not following the law. You're going to have to work really hard now. Things are really bad for you. They were going to be easy. Now they're going to be hard. Everything was going to be handed to you. Now you have to work for it. So it's like this. And this is what I mean by a heavy heart. When you know that your child is an individual capable of making their own decisions to follow your expectations, your rules, or to not, to disobey. And you see that they make the decisions. It's very sad. It's very, very sad. It's very solemn. Because it reminds us in the ways that we fail our Father. Being a parent is always a reminder about how we fail to keep His law. So it's a humbling experience to be a parent and a deeply sad thing when you when you acknowledge the fallen nature in your own children. Very, very sad. Overwhelming to some degree. But this thing happened, and I was made aware of it today while I was at work. My response was, sounds like it's time for some discipline. If you think in your mind that I just want to do what's fun, and this is just a fun idea, well, it's time to learn some discipline, because there are rules for a reason. And you don't always have perspective to understand why they are the way they are. Same thing with us and God, who has a law. We do not always have the perspective, the scope of imagination even, to fully grasp and understand why one of his laws is the way that it is. And just because you want to do what is easy or what is fun does not mean that that's what you should do, obviously. They're just green lights the whole way. They're just trying to make me go, go, go. My efficient ride home. So, maybe you all are starting to get my point. Maybe you aren't. Welcome to be here. There's 6 people and 3 thumbs up, according to what I can see. So, you guys do a pretty good job of doing the thumbs up thing. I always try and thumbs up you guys' videos whenever I can find them. I need to unsubscribe. I was a bulk unsubscribe, but I looked it up and it looks like you have to do like page by page. I don't know. 1,000 would take a long time. Not really up for it. So I was watching, I just saw more RVs on the road. And I was watching and listening to more stuff about the motorhome life. And, like I said, I've got 14 months to kind of hash everything out, kind of talk myself out of it. And if we talk ourselves out of it, the alternative is probably way, way worse than an RV. And you might be asking, what's way worse than an RV? I don't even want to find out. Well, why, if this is such an important thing for you, if you need it so badly, then why are you waiting 14 months? I'm not doing that because I can. In fact, I can't. I'm hoping and trusting that I will get another job and that I will be able to continue to pay my rent. And I'm giving myself 14 months to adjust my ability to survive for the better, regardless of me getting a better job. So this is still a leap of faith because I don't have enough money to survive based on my current income. I'm close to $1,000, about $800 incapable. And the way that I'm making it right now is I had paid rent ahead with income tax return, the refund. So anyway, discipline. I get really distracted. Obviously, it happens. No yellow, that's good. We don't like the yellow. So I gave my wife a list of tasks that my daughter could perform. Things like sweeping the back porch, picking up the backyard. You know, sometimes there's like trash back there and stuff like that. Just little cleaning tasks, things like that. So, you know, if you're not going to learn how to be obedient, then I'm definitely going to teach you how to be disciplined by doing these different things. One way or another, I'm going to provide you with the tools to be successful. However, I'm always going to remind you that the best way to live is being obedient to God. And we learn that as children by listening to our parents. And yeah, there are situations where a child has to kind of bide his time or something. I mean, there are situations where the parents are not good. They aren't good parents, and they do and say evil things. And there's a good John Piper article on that subject for kids that are living in homes with parents that to obey their parent would be actual sin, despite the biblical command to obey your parents. It actually says honor. But in those situations, typically the loophole is the fact that to honor your parent in some situations would actually be to not obey them, because the command is to honor, not to obey. It's just that obedience is typically the way to honor a parent. And I know what I'm talking about right now is really convoluted and seems weird, but I'm just thinking of kids that are in abusive situations, and you know, I'm also speaking in generalities. So anyway, God set up the family unit and the way that we relate to each other on purpose in a special way. So that's that. Trying to think if there's anything else on this topic of discipline. I mean, I could always relate this topic back to my own life and work. I am pursuing a more disciplined life. I've always felt as though I lacked the type of discipline that I've seen in older gentlemen that I've known that were in their 60s, that I was just fascinated and admired their level of discipline, paired with all that. So I am currently wrestling against, you know, some of the enemies of discipline. And I think I'm getting stronger. Time tells. You know, the more time that goes on, the more you get to see the results of what you're doing, and relationships with others that kind of take an appraisal of what's going on in your life. So over time, you kind of get to see what's going on. Discipline to stay in the same job. You know, I'm seeing I still get emails and stuff of other, like Indeed.com and stuff like that. I'm like, I could jump ship. You know, there's other jobs out here. I could go work at the, you know, the poop factory, aka a water plant, I just call it a poop factory. You know, I would get paid a good $4 an hour more. That's $8 grand. I mean, that would pretty much meet the needs. But however, I have a history of not having longevity in my work, so I'm trying to exercise my discipline to remain in the same job, regardless of how futile it seems and how unappreciated and underemployed I continue to be. I'm appreciated on a verbal level. My team appreciates me, just not the company. You know, it's like 15,000 or 17,000 employees. I'm a drop in the bucket, not even. I'm like a piece of dust in the bucket of water. Nobody's really paying that close of attention. So anyway, trying to work on discipline in my own life. And grace for my children. As I hear about these things that they do, and it's sad, it's frustrating. What's so sad? It's just so sad when your children do things that could harm themselves or others. And all because they just didn't listen. They just didn't listen. I mean, it wasn't something like putting the toaster in the bathtub. I mean, it wasn't, we're not talking about that. Somebody could have like hurt themselves though. But that's not the point. That is a point. It's an aspect of it. But that's not why you should obey. You don't, because I said so is not bad. It's one of the few videos, not one of the few. I mean, I've agreed with some Prager University videos, but the N word, no, video that they did, the saying the word no, or maybe it's vitamin no, or something or other. I don't know. But it was a good video. I agree. Because I said so is how you teach your children the meaning of authority, which is an important concept. When you lack an understanding of the need for authority in the way that God has ordered things, how He's designed us. Anyway, you probably get it. Maybe you don't. I hope you do. The RV thing, guys. I just don't even know. There's just so much to it. And there's exciting aspects to it. And there's terrifying aspects to it. Security is a big concern. So. The neighbors had their child, and their child was just walking, probably 14 months, 16-month-old, just tiny infant, walking, but not crawling. Tiny, walking in the street, and they, all three of them were. Oh, hey Matthew, I remember that. I remember that name. Pooping in the woods. I'm a socialist when it comes to giving out wrenches. Okay. Thanks, Breath of Fresh Bear. I'm just going through the comments, guys. Trying to catch up. No, I actually still haven't read the chat. I thought that I was encouraged not to read it by Intoxicating Masculinity, but maybe that's what. Seeing as how I'm reading this one, maybe I can catch up on the one from yesterday. 15 minutes a day. Serious music. All right. Whoa, what is that about? Is this like super hot? It's not super hot. What is going on? Oh, it just jacked. Okay. Why not talk on suffering tonight since this chat was on discipline? Suffering. Could do that. Suffering is an interesting topic. Suffering is an interesting topic. I feel like I understand some personal experience with it, but it's not about personal experience. That'll be a downer for sure. I'll have like 4 people. We won't have double digits on the topic of suffering. That's for sure. Why is it this keeps on not charging? Stupid. I need a new cord for my Surface Pro. It's super annoying. It won't charge. So the battery's almost dead now. I'll take it inside. Mandatory. What? New York's doing something else stupid? I think the moral of the story is get away from Sodom or Gomorrah or both. New York City is obviously a place that you need to escape from as soon as possible. Yeah, mandatory vaccines of any kind means time to move. If they federally mandated mandatory vaccines, I would probably change my gender pronoun to not human so that they couldn't give me a vaccine because I wasn't a human. I would have to start identifying as a rock. I'm no longer human. I have I'm trans rock. Metamorphic rock. I'm a meta man. Not Mega Man, Meta Man, Metamorphosis Rock Man. I don't know. You can't give me a vaccine. I'm not even human. I don't know. We'll see if we can talk about suffering tonight. Sounds like a great idea. And I will suffer you guys with paypal.me/DEVINJUMP. Yeah, how about that? The shekels of suffering. We'll see what happens. All right, have a good one, and I'll see you later. Hopefully.